In the world of live television, there's a rhythm, a predictable cadence of segments, jokes, and teases designed to keep the viewer engaged. We often treat morning talk shows as white noise, a pleasant hum that accompanies the scramble of breakfast and the start of the workday. But on a Tuesday in early 2026, the hum stopped. The white noise crystallized into a moment of pure, unscripted human truth on Today with Hoda and Jenna. The catalyst of a coat. The morning was billed as a celebration of micro-gratitudes. Jenna bush-hager and Hoda were discussing the small things that get us through the week: a perfect cup of coffee, a kind text, a green light when you're running late. It was light, airy, and safe. Then came the message from Margaret in Ohio. When Hoda read the words about a retired nurse holding her husband's coat in a surgical waiting room, the energy in the studio didn't just drop, it deepened. The image of the coat, something empty, heavy, and smelling of a person who might not come back the same, hit Jenna with visible force. For a moment, the host disappeared and the woman remained. The other side of reassurance. Jenna's response wasn't the typical television pivot. She didn't offer a platitude or a scripted "our thoughts are with you." Instead, she let the silence sit for 3 full seconds, an eternity in broadcast time. When she finally spoke, her voice lacked its usual bright, bouncy projection. It was the voice of someone who had recently been frightened. "I was in that chair," Jenna admitted, her eyes fixed on a point just past the camera. She shared, with a startling lack of artifice, that she had recently spent a night in a similar waiting room. She didn't name the person she was there for, choosing to protect the quiet parts of her family life, but she described the thinness of time. She spoke about the strange paradox of her life. She's a woman whose job is to provide comfort and presence to millions, yet in that sterile room, she felt utterly hollow. She realized that she had been using her voice as a tool for years, but that night she understood it as a lifeline. She saw herself on a television screen in the corner of the hospital lounge and felt a jarring disconnect. "I looked at that version of me, and I realized I didn't want the words. I just wanted the familiarity." The theology of presence. What followed was a profound meditation on what it means to show up. Jenna challenged the idea that support must be articulate or grand. She spoke about the theology of presence, the simple, radical act of being there when the world feels like it's dissolving. Hoda, ever the intuitive partner, didn't try to fix Jenna's vulnerability. She simply reached over and anchored Jenna's hand with her own. It was a silent acknowledgement that even the people who give hope for a living occasionally need to borrow some. The studio crew, usually a blur of motion, stood still. The camera stayed on a wide shot, giving the two women and the millions watching the space to simply exist in the truth of that moment. The mirror of the audience. The digital response was instantaneous and unlike the usual fan chatter. The Today social media feeds weren't filled with comments about Jenna's outfit or a recipe. They were filled with waiting room stories. People shared the specific voices they clung to during their own nights of uncertainty. Jenna's honesty acted as a permission slip. By admitting she didn't have the right words when she was the one in the waiting room, she relieved her audience of the burden of being strong. She redefined strength as the ability to sit in the silence without rushing to fill it with noise. The truthful broadcast. As the show transitioned into a cooking segment, the transition felt different. The laughter was there, but it was grounded. The micro-gratitude segment had evolved into something much larger, a macro-realization about human connection. Viewers didn't walk away from that hour feeling entertained, they felt seen.
Jenna bush-hager had bridged the gap between the pedestal of celebrity and the linoleum floors of a hospital. She reminded the nation that familiarity is a form of medicine, and that the most important thing we can offer one another isn't a solution, but the simple, steadying sound of a familiar voice in the dark.